Sense. Hold on.
Charts, but crude oil is bouncing a little bit right now of some news coming out of the White House this morning. But as we get farther into that, Hogue will take it away with the charts. Before we do that, though, we have our tip of the week. Better habits, bigger goals. I'm just going to read this off for you guys. Better habits streamline your routine, reducing procrastination and increasing efficiency. Bigger goals provide focus and direction, helping you prioritize tasks that move you forward. Thinking about the bigger picture. Oh, we were talking in the green room about this for just a second. What was your take on this again? You want to share that?
Well, as starting with better habits, we're both starting a dry January. I don't know how long that's going to last past January, but I remember last year when I did this, I felt a lot better, and I've been kind of working on creating some better habits as far as exercise and health are concerned. Oh, well, over the last 60 years, really, but sometimes that goes, sometimes that stays. But working on improving some of those habits and as far as goals are concerned, one of the things is streamlining your routine. At least have some sort of a outline or a plan for your routine. How are you going to do your homework? How are you going to prepare for the markets? How are you going to be looking at the markets? It's all part of it's creating those better habits. And if you haven't yet, and I know Mo put out kind of a beginning trading plan. I've put out a beginning trading plan or an outline as to how to look at the markets. Start doing that. If you haven't started doing that, create that habit. And again, once you start a habit, it's much easier to keep going with that habit. It takes a while to kind of create that habit, but once it's created, you feel as though you really need it as part of your routine to get prepared for the trading day. So, as far as bigger goals are concerned, I'm always for bigger goals. Just remember that, putting out huge goals doesn't mean that you have to reach them. It doesn't mean you have to push yourself to reach them. I find, having big profit goals sometimes has the opposite effect because I start thinking about trying to reach that goal instead of actually looking for good trades. Lots of good things about this tip of the week this week, and we're looking forward to talking more about that throughout the week. And, hopefully you are kind of putting together that opening, that morning routine outline, whatever it is. How are you looking at the markets? Do it consistently, create that habit, and you'll reach those bigger goals.
Yep. Keep the bigger picture in mind. What's the old saying? You take care of the pennies and the dollars take care of themselves. But always know where the dollars are.
I like it.
All right. With that, Hogue, let's get into those sweet, sweet charts.
All right. So, as always, starting with the daily and the S&Ps. We saw some pretty good rejection. We talked about these a little bit last week. Got a nice little double bottom showing signs of rejection on those long shadows or wicks on the daily charts. So that really put in the lower side of our balance, if you want, our shorter time frame balance. We've tightened up the weekly kickoff levels, and we're already above them this week. 60.17 is the weekly kickoff high in the S&Ps. Last week's high, 60.36 quarter. We've been wrestling with that last week's high now for quite some time. So there's always going to be a couple of speed bumps. Markets are already coming off of that. And these weekly kickoff levels are areas of longer time frame importance. This was a difficult decision to place that weekly kickoff level at that area because, we've got, a trend line off the all-time high. I could have easily put it there. This swing high, I could easily have put it there. I felt more importantly that the longer time frame traders who are now more likely going to be involved in the markets this week more than last week. I think this year's trading really starts today.
Order filled.
Just make sure you kind of keep your expectations and your ideas reasonable. Everybody gets excited for the new year. Everybody gets excited for the new trading. just keep your expectations reasonable. I think that's going to be a good habit to kind of start again
Order
this
filled.
year. So market really just coming off that last week's high, right back to weekly kickoff high 60.17. Looks like we're going to probably open pretty close to that. What does this look like on the 30-minute chart? Well, when we take a look at Friday's range, it was a double distribution trend day to the upside with the close right up near the high. Overnight inventory is long. That overnight inventory seems to be getting a little bit nervous about holding those shorts even here prior to the open. The push back to the weekly kickoff high, 60.17, also takes us back to the overnight session VWAP, which is right in that area as well. Very interesting opportunity for an execution, perhaps on the open or somewhere near the open. At the very least, it's going to offer us the opportunity to limit risk in either direction. But we are going to be with good probability going to be opening with a gap above Friday's high. 59.96.75. To get to close the gap, we're going to have to get down to that level. If we can't close the gap relatively early, we're looking for opportunities in the direction of the gap. Very interesting that this market just pulled right back to that weekly kickoff high, 60.17. Might be an interesting area for an execution as the day goes on. And again, the profile Friday, was a double distribution trend day to the upside, excess low, just continuing to push higher. A reasonably organized move. We lost 6,200 in open interest on that move to the upside. So this was more about short covering than new longs. Are we going to be bringing in those new longs above weekly kickoff high? Becomes the real question, at least for me. Now take a look at the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ, again, weekly kickoff high is pretty tight. It's an important inflection level and longer time frame. We're going to see if that comes into play at all this week, and it looks like it's coming into play here on the open. So we had a weekly kickoff low at 21,140 last week. We looked below it and rejected. We looked below that level and rejected here before Christmas here on the 20th of December. So we've got a lot of excess lows here and a double bottom, similar to what we have in the S&Ps on this. So this is kind of looking a little bit like support. Weekly kickoff low is at that level. Friday, we lost about 2,100 in open interest on the push off of the weekly kickoff low. Short covering. Obviously, we had a lot of traders probably holding shorts from the recent move to the downside. Those traders decided to cover. Now we're looking at the potential for new buying coming in. Now remember, more participants will be in the markets today, as this is, to me, the beginning of the new trading year. Keep your expectations reasonable. It's a whole year. You got a whole year to make that money. So don't be too eager and excited. If you're looking for trades, you're going to find them. Be careful with that. Overnight inventory is going to be long. And again, pressing up against last week's high in the NASDAQ. That was 21,742 in the orders. Weekly kickoff high, 21,650. Where did this market just pull back to? Just pulled back to weekly kickoff high, 21,650. Also, the overnight VWAP took us right to that level. Overnight inventory is long. To close the gap, we're going to have to get down to 21,559 quarter. Without closing that gap, the inability to close that gap tells us, hey, there might be opportunity to the long side in this. Be cautious about that. We've just taken the market back to an important inflection level in the weekly kickoff high. There was also a naked point of control that has yet to be checked in regular trading hours. Overnight inventory longs already a little bit nervous. We just saw a liquidation of a lot of those overnight longs to an important inflection level. It's going to be an interesting morning, interesting open here in the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ was pretty much just a trend day to the upside. No double distribution, just a trend day to the upside, closing relatively close to the highs. Point of control is very high, so it was certainly a trend day to the upside and a short covering trend day at that. Take a look now at crude oil. Crude continues to bring in open interest at higher highs. We saw last week we had high open interest increases